digital citizens is the fact that we have the internet to do so, and Hyak has really become a heroic company in town and hooking up our area with internet access. So thank you once again.
Well, thank you very much. So what you guys are seeing here is actually a special trailer that's designed to hold these kind of reels like this. And if you kind of look around the property here, you might see some other big orange duct over here, some other ones way off in the distance over there. We can use this trailer to mount those. We pull all the duct off, and once we get the duct buried, all of this is almost like super strong string. It's called mule tape, and you can almost hang a car from it, how strong this stuff is. And so once we get our conduit in the ground, we use a vacuum cleaner, like a big shop vac, and we can suck this into the duct. And once this is in, we can use it to pull the cable back in. So we're going to come wander over here now. This isn't quite like Christmas morning, but this is a brand new toy for us. We just got it last week. And these really big teeth right here, these guys help us dig trenches in the ground. So we might have to take a piece of fiber from the street and get it up to somebody's house. And so with this machine, that big bar almost works like a really big chainsaw on wheels. And we can put it in the ground and dig a nice little trench that we can lay a piece of conduit in, like a duct, or a piece of fiber in if we have to too. So our Christmases look a little bit different sometimes now, where we get excited about things like this.
Yeah, that is pretty cool looking though. Here, I'll get up close on the teeth. That's kind of interesting. Look at that. Looks like a big chainsaw.
Yep, these guys, if you look here, this one is a little bit sharper and shaped a little bit different. This guy helps kind of rip the dirt and the sand up. These guys, you'll notice, are a little bit more blunt and have a different shaped edge on them. And those teeth help chip through any rock or any kind of hard stuff we might find in the ground. They kind of do a little bit of a different thing sometimes.
Okay.
Over here. We'll do a real test here and see how well you guys can see the end of this. And if you look real carefully, if I'm sure that's going to work or not.
You know how it's kind of funky focusing?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is the piece of fiber that we've cut. But when we buy this fiber, it comes on things just like this. And so if you look really carefully, you might be able to see what this says, made in Germany. A lot of the fiber that we get comes from either Japan or China or Germany is where these are most commonly made. And so this little guy here, we buy these on rolls like this that are about 30,000 feet long. We have 5 or 6 miles of fiber on a regular spool like this. Same thing with that big one back here. But inside of little cables just like this.
Let's try that again. Let's see if we can focus in a
Sure.
little.
Let me try a different side here. How about that one right there?
Yeah, if I back up, you can kind of see, students, that it is many little cables inside of one big black cable, and there's a central, is that central clear one the most important, or they're all important?
That's what's called the strength member. That kind of helps give the cable some shape.
Okay.
Because this fiber is actually made of glass, and you can break it. It's a little bit flexible, but you can break it pretty easy. And so they put what's called the strength member inside here to help this kind of keep it shape a little bit. Okay. And when we visit with Neil here, when we're done, he'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. We have these cables kind of split apart, and he'll be able to show what that looks like.
Like a close-up of that?
Hopefully. Yeah. See how hard it's rated.
Okay.
So we're going to sneak right back here. And when we put stuff in the ground, we do it with all kinds of different size conduits. And so this type of duct is about as big as your thumb, maybe. It's about 3/4 of an inch. And so this is the kind that we bury to somebody's house and actually put a little cable inside of that to get internet to somebody's house. Some of these bigger ones, let's come over here. This one, I probably won't be able to move. If you can actually check this guy out, you'll see 4 really small ducts inside of this. And so this is only one physical tube, but it has 4 small ones inside. These guys are kind of special, but we use these in certain places where we have to get a lot of conduit or a lot of cable in the ground.
Would that be like the school district have to have bigger cords because there's so much internet, or is that way off the mark?
Well, no, that's not wrong at all. What we do is we use stuff like this. When it's sized like this, it's only a little hard to put in. When you pull more duct and they get bigger, they start getting harder and more expensive to put in. So this duct lets us save a little bit of money on the labor to put it in, but the duct is more expensive. So let's come wander over here real quick.
Well, at least your ductwork is pretty and colorful.
Yeah.
Look at those pretty colors.
That's exactly why. And I'll ask a rhetorical question and ask if anybody knows why they're different colors. And the reason they're different colors is so that you can tell them apart when they're in the ground. Those big boxes that we bury are called vaults. And when all those conduits come up together, if they were all the same color, we couldn't tell any of them apart in the ground.
So I'm guessing that this is like an international color coding system. Yep. Okay.
That's exactly right. So they're very common colors and used all over the place. Okay. So this one, you'll notice this particular reel looks a little bit different. It's got 3 different colors on it. Where something like some of the reels over there, you might see the blue one all by itself in the back corner. That's just the blue one by itself. So every one of these has a slightly different use depending on where we're trying to put some of the conduit in the ground.
All right.
So I think that might be everything we want to hit here right now. Are we good on time?
Yeah. Are we ready to switch over to Neil? Or is there anything else that, here's just one last tour of all the cables. And students, again, I know you have lots of questions and answers, and we'll save them until the end because that just seems to work the best. So yeah, maybe we should hop on over to Neil. And okay, so this is where it's going to require you to pin a different screen. So Neil, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Okay, well,
hop outside here in the blustery weather. See if it still sounds okay. All right. Everybody hear me and got me okay?
Yes. I can hear you.
All right, perfect. So I'm out here by Grocery Outlet, which is now by McDonald's and stuff, and this is an active site where we're actually working on getting some of the connections done that Robbie was talking about. And so I'm going to flip my camera around and show you guys some of the specific things that he was just talking about that are actually out in the field, and then we'll come back for some questions. So, like Robbie said, those vaults that he was showing, the boxes that go in the ground, here's an example of one of those that's actually buried. And so this box here actually goes down into the ground about 4 feet. So inside of that box are those ducts or conduit pipes that Robbie was just showing you guys. And so they run up and down along the street here and come from both directions and come inside this vault. And inside the vault is all the cabling and everything that he was showing you as well with the fiber and stuff. And from here, it runs up into this cabinet that we have on the side of the road. And this is one of our distribution points. And so from here, we'll start to split the fiber and the cables all out to the rest of the town over on this side. And so I'm going to open this guy up. And this one's in current process of being built and everything. And so inside here, we've got a couple of what we call our splice trays. And these aren't actually finished yet. But here's some of that cable that Robbie was talking about back here. And so you can see the different tubes and everything that are in there. You can kind of make out the colors. I don't know if the focus is working or not. But inside of this black single cable, there's 4 colored tubes. And each colored tube has 12 individual fibers in it. So, as he stated, rhetorical question real quick, let's do some math. If you have 4 tubes, each tube's got 12, you have 48. So there's 48 fibers inside of this one cable. And so this cable comes into these cases here, and inside these cases are these little panels that come in that have these plugs that we can plug all the internet into. And so your house might come into one of these, and we can plug you into our network, and that's how the internet gets delivered to you. And we're also in the process of digging some of that trenching. So Robbie showed you that machine that we have over there. We just used that to dig this trench out right here like this. And this is being used for some electrical that we're going to bring up to this cabinet to power the air conditioner and the equipment that goes inside this. And so from here, we go and start splitting off to all your guys' houses and everything, running down the streets, putting in cables, and branching out everything. So it's pretty cool. A little hard to work on when it's wet, but it's what brings the internet to you guys and lets you do calls and lets us do things like this. I think probably what we'll do now is, so they showed you all of the inside of, or the outside of our kind of fiber head end, we call it, our lot or central point where all of our internet starts at. And so I think they're going to move inside now. And so everything that I just showed you runs from this location all the way back across town over to Kingwood on 35th up there where they're at right now, and it connects to this directly. So I'm going to let it flip back over to Robbie, and he'll show you the cables and how everything gets pushed out of our fiber hut, we call it, and broadcast out to this location.
Thanks, Neil. I feel like we're like weathermen live on site here right now. So anyway, like Neil said, we're back inside of our fiber hut, and what I'll do is kind of show this over my shoulder here. And so what we're looking at is every single one of these little yellow cables right here is really somebody's house. Neil mentioned there's some kind of like little panels and cassettes. That's what one of these guys is right here. So every single one of these connections that you see is all an individual house. It could be a neighborhood or like an apartment complex. But for the most part, every single one of these little things you see in here represents somebody's internet connection. And so if you will kind of get a little bit closer here for you guys. And so all of those little cables all snap in there. And that is how the fiber comes from kind of where we get it right here inside this little building and goes all the way out through all these cables you see in this building, all the way out the street. Neil's over behind Grocery Outlet in the movie theater, and we're up in the business park. And so I probably should know this number off the top of my head, but I'll bet it's probably I'll bet you're probably 18 or 20,000 feet away from the cabinet that Neil's at. We're probably about 4 miles away. And so we have cable buried all underground. It crosses 101, goes up Spruce, and gets all the way over to that cabinet where Neil is. And so sometimes we all think that doing the internet is super hard and super complicated. And some parts of it is, and it's not super easy. But it really is like taking a giant extension cord all around town and trying to drag it out to everybody's house that needs internet. So it takes us a little bit of time. It costs a little bit of money, but we're able to kind of bite off little pieces of it to kind of keep going. So that's really about everything we have in here. Do we want to try to open it up for questions?
Yeah, we can do that. And I actually want to ask the first question. My question is, can you, because there are different types of internet, right? When I live out of town, north of town, and when we first moved in, we had satellite.
Yeah.
So you can get your internet from the satellite. You can get your internet this way. And the most current internet I have is actually through cell phone power data. Do you want to kind of explain that just a little bit, the differences between them?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there are obviously lots of different types of internet. Sometimes you get internet from the regular phone company, and they have kind of regular copper cables that might look something like this. And I'm not going to be able to do this one right, but it's kind of a really typical, looks like a phone line type of thing. And that type of technology is called DSL, and it isn't really the fastest internet anymore. What we do, fiber, is the fastest internet you can get. There's other internet that you can get from cable TV providers like Charter Spectrum. They can provide you internet. They just use a different type of cable. And then finally, you have satellite internet, which actually has satellites way up in the sky. And for some of you guys that have heard of like SpaceX and Tesla or Elon Musk, he's launching a new satellite type service that uses what they call a low Earth orbit. And it basically just means the satellites are closer to Earth. And
for our friends who watched the Mars rover landing today, wasn't that just
it was like an hour ago, yep.
That would have been satellite
Yep.
internet that got those images to us here on Earth.
Yep.
So I just thought it was such a fortuitous day to talk about the internet, because we just went to Mars this morning.
Yep, yeah, we just watched Perseverance, I think was the name of the lander. And Perseverance just landed an hour ago, and that is exactly how they're communicating. It's with 2 really big satellite dishes, one way back on Mars and some back in our atmosphere here. And so you can also get internet from the cell phone companies that use like big cell phone towers. But that internet normally is a little bit different. They gauge how much internet you use, almost like how much water you use at your house. And so sometimes you end up running out of data on those ones. If you've ever heard people kind of talk about that before.
Hey, Mrs. Craig, I know we have a lot of questions. Do you want to start calling on individuals? And remember, we go by the order of the hands raised. So why don't you take it away, Mrs. Craig?
All right. Our first question is from Fallen Schumann.
How much money does it cost to get all this stuff?
Well, so 2 questions for that. What we sell the internet for, we sell our gigabit fiber, which is 1,000 megs. We sell it to everybody at their house for $50 a month when you live in town here. And so it's actually a really inexpensive internet connection, even being one of the fastest internet that you can get. But to really blow your guys' mind, when we install this stuff and all the work we're doing right now, when we have to bury it in the ground and use kind of some special equipment, it costs us about $150,000 a mile for us to have to drill it into the ground.
Wow!
It's really expensive to put in, but we try to sell it for as cheap as we can so that everybody can get it.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that question.
Okay, next we have Tyler Holberson.
Hi, Tyler.
Tyler?
Tyler, do we got you, bud?
Yeah, that happens our class all the time because he don't answer. I think he's talking.
Okay, well, you know what? We can, let's hop to the next question and we can come back to Tyler.
Okay, Bronson.
How you how you make the internet?
So if you have like your Chromebook at home, for example, that you got.
I have a Chromebook and I have internet.
Yep, perfect. So that Chromebook that you have at home, when we're building the internet, what we're actually doing is taking a whole bunch of those computers and plugging them all together so that they can all communicate to each other. And so at your own house, you guys have your own kind of network where all your computers and tablets and phones, all those guys connect together. And what the internet is really a collection of those networks. We work on plugging all of them in together and helping them talk the same language.
Yeah, it's really sophisticated and also kind of simplistic at the same time. Like, it's almost literally like we are just connecting everyone with cords, essentially, in a really sophisticated manner. We are so fascinated, Siuslaw, with the mechanics of how things work, and I love it. Who's
Tyler
next?
has his hand up.
Okay. Next on the line, Mrs. Craig.
Is Tyler back on?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Tyler.
Okay. I was gonna say, I forgot what I was gonna say.
That's fine, Tyler. If you remember, raise your hand back again and we'll come back to you, okay?
Okay, Morris Friedman.
I just raised my hand and didn't really have a question, but now I have a question.
Fire away, Morris. What you got, bud?
Is it like, do you one of the things that Mommy did when she got a new phone was she put both her old phone and new phone next to each other on her bedside table so they could share information.
Yep.
Like talk the same language. Do you mean like how Daddy's phone, like one of Daddy's phones does not connect with the TV anymore?
Got you. Yeah. So like,
The new phone is Android,
yeah.
but
So
the
like,
TV can't talk to that.
yeah. Sometimes that happens. And so Like your mommy's phones, for example, they are using that same type of network. They're just using a different language to communicate. It'd be like being able to talk English and Spanish. And so when you put those two phones together, they're designed to talk a certain language to each other and share information. The same way that we do it with all this fiber stuff up here, they're talking one specific language, but to all of these other computers on the internet. So they all share the same language.
Oh, I get it. So, like, Android is like one language, Apple is like another language, and our TV, I think, is a different company.
Yep, and a good way to look at that
Apple
is...
doesn't really connect to it.
Yeah, one way to look at that is maybe like Apple and Android both have their own language, but they also know another language, and that other language lets them communicate to each other.
That language is the big internet.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's the big internet.
Hey, Morris, that was a super fascinating observation and question altogether. You are so smart. Thank you for asking that. All right, we have time for a couple more questions. Hey, we're going to take questions
I wish I could have
until
lessons.
2:35. And then we'll play our read aloud. So who's up next, Mrs. Craig?
I have Adrena Snedden.
Hi, Adrena. Nice to see you again.
How long have you owned the business?
Hi, Adrena. We have owned the business for 10 years that we've been doing this already. But we just started doing fiber in 2017, about 4 years ago.
Hey, you want to say something about how one gets into your line of work briefly?
Well,
Because,
yeah.
dude, I know we have some students where this is super fascinating. You might want to get a job doing this someday.
Yeah, I can tell you that starting an ISP, internet service provider, is a pretty hard thing. It takes quite a long time, and it takes quite a bit of money to get moving. But there's lots of jobs that you can get that work with internet companies like us, where you have to work on computer networks and security and things like that that help keep everybody's internet connections safe. So working for an ISP is really rewarding. Neil and I get to do stuff inside with computers a lot of days, but the next day we might be helping one of the guys out in the field, digging a trench or running a piece of heavy machinery. So there's quite a lot of variation in the job, but that's kind of one of the things that makes it cool for us.
Thanks for asking that question. Probably have time for a couple more, Mrs. Craig.
Okay, Tyler has another question.
Fire away, Tyler.
I remember my question. It was, how does the factory work? Do you guys go to sleep at night, or do you stay up all night?
No, luckily we get to go to bed at night. And I am an early to bed kind of guy, an early to get up kind of guy. But all the internet stuff works without us having to touch it, unless there's like a big problem. But since we bury most everything in the ground, we don't really have too many problems. Sometimes we hang these cables in the air on telephone poles. And when you hang them on telephone poles, if you know anybody that lives in Portland or Salem, they've had a lot of ice and snow and things.
I want to ask remember my other question.
Sure.
Yes. It was, I also live in Eugene too.
Cool. So you've got some of that. You guys didn't get too much snow and ice, did you?
Hold on just a second.
Maybe we should hop to another question, Mrs. Craig, until Tyler comes back.
Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
It's so cool that, you guys, have all that internet and, you spread it all around
That's right, Kevin. That's exactly
the world.
Yeah, you know what? They are heroes in our community. We would not be connected without individuals like Hyak. They're superheroes, internet superheroes. Thank you for sharing that.
Where's your cape, Robbie?
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Maybe one more question, then we'll get ready to wrap up. Do we have anybody else?
Gracelyn Mason.
Hi, Graceland.
Gracelyn, are you on?
Yeah, I see her. Gracelyn's shy because she's my little cousin.
Gracelyn, do you want to ask your question?
You're muted. Well, how do all the phones connect if they're not even connected with the cord or anything?
Sure. Hi, Grayson, and thanks for the question. So all the phones, like the phone that's in my pocket right here, the same way that we use fiber to be able to kind of share information, excuse me, you can do the same thing with wireless technology. And Neil, I might have to turn that over to you to answer.
No problem. So your cell phone or your phone or any wireless device, your laptop that you have that you might be on Wi-Fi in your home, or your cell phone that's out and you're connected to the network from Verizon or AT&T or any of those, they use radio waves to communicate to the towers. And so they talk to the tower wirelessly. But once it gets to the tower, like in our case in Florence, you see the flashing red light across the river on the hill. So up there, it can connect to that tower. And then from that tower, it usually takes a strand of fiber or the internet. It doesn't have to be fiber, but it takes the internet and it connects all of the phone networks together. And so it's really hard to say, but all of the phone system is designed to talk the same language. And so you can have a Verizon phone talk to an AT&T phone, talk to somebody's landline phone. They all know how to communicate together. And so the phone wirelessly connects to your house Wi-Fi or the cellular phone tower or whatnot. But once it gets there, it goes onto the internet, usually across a fiber internet connection, and then reaches the other phone through a landline or through the wireless tower. I don't know of a better way to explain that other than they all talk the same language and every phone can talk to one another and it gets routed through a network of phones.
Good question and good answer, Neil. Mrs. Craig, how many more hands do we have? Is there quite a few, or are we about ready to kind of wrap up and play our read aloud?
Nope, that's it for the questions.
Okay, well, we're going to wave goodbye to our guest speakers today and say thank you, and then stay on the line. Mrs. Craig is going to play the read aloud.
Bye-bye.
AR points, okay? So let's wave goodbye and say goodbye to our speakers.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Bye. All right, stay on and watch the video and take your AR test, everyone. We're going to close it out on this side.
Okay, and you guys let me know if you can hear this, if it echoes. This is something that we have played before, but it is still a good one.
This is Craig.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just left.
I know. Some people do.
I didn't know if you were leaving a note.
Read aloud for today, and Valentine's Day is right around the corner, so we're reading Be My Valentine by William
Read.
Valentine's Day is coming, so gentle and happy. You really like those funny cards with the mirror saying, I can't do it, and he will be my Valentine. What is Valentine's? Asked Louis. He was new in first grade. And today you get to try to get the most right. And everyone says, you are my sweetheart. You're my sweetheart. The teacher said on Valentine's Day, we send cards to show we like someone. Everybody must send a card to everybody else in first grade. I'm not going to send a card to Anna Maria, Danny whispered to Willie. And Jim thought, I'm not going to send a card. I'm going to send 2 Valentines to Paul. After school, Jim's mother said, why don't you make your own Valentine? But Jim remembered how his heart's always came out. fat on one side and skinny on the other. And you can never make those little birthday guys. The ones that said, "Hey, my honey." Jim rushed to the 10-cent store. The other kids were already there. First, they looked at all the candy. Then they each bought a box of Valentine's. Each box was the same, and each box had enough cards in it for everybody in the first grade. Ooh, this is a cute one. Will you send it to me, Jim? Asked Anna Maria. But Jim was picking which cards to send to full. Now, last, it was Valentine's Day. The teacher called out the names on the cards. Jim was hoping he'd get a lot of good Valentines. So I waved a card. Look, I got one from Sandy. It says, "My two lips are mine." All the first graders were showing their Valentine's. They asked each other, "How many did you get?" Paul told Jim, "I like the one you sent me. I like Elise, my Valentine." He held up a little policeman on Holberson. Danny yelled, "I have 13 Valentines," but some of Danny's cards said, "Yeah, her nice from Danny." He did something to himself. Jim got 12 Valentines. He kept looking at them. He loved them all. "See this one?" Anna Maria said to Margaret. "I kept it for myself because it was too cheap to send." Some people got a lot of Valentines. Some people didn't get the least. But George didn't get enough. He ran and hid in the coat room and wouldn't come out. "Oh dear," he said. "I'm afraid everyone did not send Valentines to everyone else in first grade. What can we do to make George feel better?" Everybody tried to think. It was very quiet except for George. He was crying in the coat room. Anna Maria said, "I'll give him one of my cards because I have so many." Then George hollered, "I don't want any." "I know," Jim cried. "We can play music for him." He took out his harmonica. Paul went to the music corner and got the trumpet. Anna Maria took the kazoo before anyone else could. Willie got the drums. Margaret played the guitar. Andy blowed the xylophone and Lee winding the triangle. Sarah put a pretty cloth on her head and began to dance. Around the room they went. George came slowly. Sammy gave him bells to shake. He knew that was George's favorite. Willie got the paper crown and put it on George's head. "Hey man, you want to sing?" he said. "And look who's here," said the teacher. Willie's mom was standing in the doorway. She brought cupcakes shaped by pink hearts. Danny ate his right away, and then pretended his hat was a big cupcake. He pretended he was eating. He had fun with his life. Everybody laughed and laughed. Then it was 3 o'clock, and all grabbed their cards and ran out calling to one another. "Happy Valentine's Day, Jim. Happy Valentine's Day, Paul. Happy Valentine's Day, Willie and Sandy and Henry and Lee and George and Margaret and Sarah and everybody. Happy Valentine's Day." Yeah. Let's say moral of the story. Make sure that you're equitable and give all your friends Valentines. Thank you.
Better than the first time.
Yeah, I realized that we had a really glitchy day the last time I played this, and so we decided to play that again. And that's it for the field trip today.
Thank you.
I appreciated all of you showing up and asking some awesome questions.
Be My Valentine is a really old joke.
I like
It's a
it.
really old joke.
All right, guys.
Here's Craig.
I hope
Hi. On the 22nd, I'll see you back in school.
Yeah,
I love the last 2 field trips.
I'm excited.
I really love the internet and computer stuff.
I know you do, Morris.
Bye. There's always 2 of that guy with his camera off.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you next time, okay?
I hope they don't have any problems with the internet. Hey, your mask is a comic.
Uh-huh.
Put the comic sideways.
Bye.